Welcome back to another episode of the Project Reinvented podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan John McRae, and today we're delving into a conversation that is real and raw as it gets. Our guest, Andrew Willox, not only opens up about his intense battle with anxiety, depression, addiction, and suicidal ideation, but he also shares his incredible journey of bouncing back and creating his own podcast so he can be a beacon of support to others out there facing similar struggles. Now, Andrew doesn't hold back. He shares the darkest corners of his experience, intense anxiety, depression, agoraphobia, and the haunting shadows of suicidal thoughts. Yet amidst the chaos, a moment of clarity emerges, reshaping his perspective and propelling him forward to recovery. Now, Andrew has gone above and beyond in his personal journey. He's created the Borderline podcast, a platform dedicated to helping others struggling with mental health challenges. So join us as Andrew discusses the role of spirituality in his life, finding purpose in helping others, and the transformative power of honesty, conversation, and positive change. Now, this is more than just a podcast. This is a beacon of hope and testament to resilience and a guide for anyone navigating the stormy seas of mental health. So join us in this unfiltered journey with Andrew Willox, where vulnerability meets strength. Okay, now Project Reinvented, this is all about, hearing people's story of reinvention and bouncing back from adversity. And, Andrew here, you've had your own journey, your own reinvented journey. Now, you have your own podcast, which is Andrew's Anxiety Adventures. Now, you're quite open about everything. And, looking back, when did you first notice signs of depression, anxiety, some type of mental health? Do you remember when that kind of started for you?
If I think, well, in true honesty, now that I've kind of went through the hardship last year, obviously, what we'll go on to later on, but kind of when I really look at my life, I guess now in the kind of cliche way that even as a kind of teenager, I knew that I wasn't quite as normal mentally, if that makes sense. I was always quite a little bit depressive then, but again, you're a teenager boy, you're going through puberty, hormones. You never think about your mental health at that age. So really, for me, I would say when I was around about 22, is when things started to get quite not bad, noticeable. I think it's the word that I'd use for it, that I started having, slight anxieties about going outside. I started having this kind of nervous twitch in the back of my neck that whenever I made eye contact with somebody, or if I was to get up out of my chair or anything like that, was really quite intensely hard. It felt at times. But again, I didn't think too much then of what it was mentally. I knew something was wrong. You kind of go into Google, nervous around this, nervous twitch, and it was coming up with anxiety, but I didn't understand what anxiety was at that time. All I was interested in was getting rid of that feeling. And I'd say I managed it well. I hid it well back then. I think if I look honestly now, from 22 onward, I struggled a lot. I started using alcohol quite a lot as my mechanism for being a normal young adult. Going out on a Friday night, that started for me at 3 or 4 p.m. because I'd need to have those couple of cans before I even got to the pub. Which from a young age, that sets off a bad relationship with alcohol from the start, and especially when you're dealing with mental health. That it for me, it was that cure. It was the things that I was googling for. That alcohol at the time was the answer for that. So that's what I say. I hid it well, more than anything. And I'd say probably for the next couple of years. Sorry, I'll let you go.
I think a lot of people will be able to identify that, with the alcohol, because for me, certainly, that's what when I started drinking alcohol, that's what I realised. It took away my inhibitions, took away the uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
It gave me the ability to act like I wanted to act. So, and that, again, you're talking about anxiety. When I was 18, 19, I was diagnosed with depression, and I didn't know what it was. I just, they gave me pills, and my uncle flushed them down the toilet. he said, "You're not taking them." He said, "You're not depressed." He says, "You're just taking too much drugs," and which he was probably right. But there was a reason why I was drinking, and it was to escape the uncomfortable feeling, like you were saying there.
I mean, yeah, that's it. It's you hit the nail on the head. That the uncomfortable feeling, and it wasn't that it was just mental at times. Like I say, that kind of nervous twitch and the ability to not move normally. It physically alters you as well. And I was, like I say, I was trying to avoid it then as much as I could, and I did quite well. Like I say, I went on a couple of holidays. You know, I went out, but all of that was being masked with alcohol at the time. That without alcohol, that I would never have done that stuff. I would have stayed at home, pure and simple. And
Right.
it was when actually when I got back from Thailand. Sorry, the I'd actually met what is my wife now, Sass, and when things got really bad and I had to take action was a talk about we'd went down to a Lee Evans gig down in Newcastle, and Sass had no idea that I struggled with anxiety at the time. She just thought I liked to drink, you know, which was fun, especially at the start of any relationship. You know, it's fun. You go out together and you're having a good time, which that was a perfect escape for me as well. And so we went down to this hotel and we're staying in it, and there was a nice little steakhouse next door. So we went in, and I was sat there, and I can remember having this horrible, horrible fear of just not wanting the waiter to come across, because I did not want to open my mouth and talk or look anywhere near him. And I remember really like muttering the words like it was steak, medium, and like that. And I was up, I was to the toilets, I was sweating, I was back down, I was uncomfortable, the clothes were sticking, I was, you know, heart palpitations, really quite bad, you know, onset of a panic attack. And Sass recognised that. And that at the time obviously made me a little bit more scared, because I was like, oh my God, you know, I don't really know what's happening. She's not going to know what's happening. We're not going to know how to handle this. And so obviously that's all adding to the panic. And I struggled on for probably around about five or 10 more minutes, kind of semi-determined to make it through my meal, and again just hope that it went away, but it didn't. I just got worse, and you know, really bad kind of dizzy, nausea. I had to go back to the hotel, and then, you know, kind of semi broke down to Sass, told her, you know, I really struggle in these social situations. This has been going on for so many years. And it was when I got back that's when I started seeking help medically, for, you know,
Right.
speaking to the doctor.
Yeah. So see if you were to, you know, go back, you know, obviously this has been going on for a couple of years. You know, what was your childhood like? You know, if you were to rewind the clock, you know, did you have a happy childhood? Was there kind of any trauma involved in it?
Yeah, you know, I had a really good childhood. It would be tough childhood. As an adult now, I can look and I can appreciate how tough it would have been. I was raised by a single mum.
Right.
They divorced when I was quite young, anyway, and my dad was an alcoholic as well. So there is that addictive personality gene that runs
Yeah.
through us. It is.
What age did they get divorced?
I was, you know, I was really young, 2 or 3. So
Yeah,
you would say
because
then
my
that it wouldn't
parents
be
were the
noticeable,
same.
but it would be noticeable. Yeah.
No, I was 4. I was 4 when my parents got divorced, and I don't remember my child like see anything before the age of 7, 8. There's tiny bits and pieces that I remember, but I don't really remember it. You know, most
Yeah,
of it.
that's the
And
same as me. Yeah.
I also believe that I had a great childhood because my mum was an amazing woman. I love her. She was the best mother ever. I never wanted for anything. But now looking back, because of all the studying I've done and research that I've done, I understand that as children, we blame ourselves for, you know, because we feel the pain from our mother. We feel, and it's
Mhm.
all, you know, it's not conscious. It's all energetic. So see, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah.
the parents breaking up, that my understanding of it, I blamed myself. So I blamed
Mhm.
everything. I made everything personal, and now that makes sense because I have found it very difficult to deal with, rejection. I always felt I was never good enough. I always, I didn't
Mhm.
feel worthy. And now with the understanding I have now I'm trying to I'm piecing the things together. And, I had nobody in my family that struggled with addiction, yet I became an alcoholic. And there was no kind of history of it. There was no
Mhm.
real background. I had a loving childhood. So when I piece it together, it's like, well, it was my parents divorcing was probably the catalyst for the feelings that I had, which then alcohol was the soother for the pain
Mhm.
because it was pain. Alcohol wasn't the problem. It was the solution to a deeper problem, which was the unworthiness, not feeling good enough, constant insecurity. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
don't know if that's, what maybe your experience was similar because,
Yeah,
I tend to find, yeah, is that's a kind of same thing for you?
yeah, yeah. I would totally agree with everything you've just said. Rejection for me, even now, I would say I would struggle with the idea of that in some sort of way. Um, it was, yeah, like a really good childhood, but when I look at my relationship with my dad, it wasn't a typical father-son relationship anyway. There was not very limited contact, but there was limited contact from his side um, throughout my childhood, which made it quite awkward to kind of keep a normal relationship feeling going anyway. So I recognise now that there was a lot of pressure on me as a kid because I always kind of felt like I had to as well when at times that maybe I didn't want to or
Yeah.
felt like I had to want to, if that makes sense.
No, totally. Yeah, I totally
So
get
yeah,
it.
like looking back, there's definitely bits in there.
Yeah, because did you witness your dad with his drinking? Did you see him? You know, because I know with my children, they don't really remember me drinking because they were so young. But
Mhm.
I know that my daughter especially still has the emotional scars from it because she doesn't consciously remember, but because she witnessed, some of the behaviors that I had, and also because my wife Jenna, she had to try and keep the family together. She struggled because she was trying to hold everything together while I was basically falling apart. She's trying to hold us together, so that imbalance.
Yeah.
Bella was present through that. So even though she doesn't consciously remember it, there's signs that has affected her now. Like for example, she's got Tourette's, which is kind of brought on with anxiety, and I do believe that
Yeah.
my behaviour back then contributed to her anxiety that she has now.
Yeah.
And also with my son as well. So, did you witness your father acting out, or did you witness him drunk, or did you witness him? I don't know if there was any type of arguments between your parents.
No, I mean, like I said, the early recollections couldn't even now probably go back to anything from kind of from my dad's side, maybe until around about 6 or 7 years old, I would say. It's kind of any sort of vague memory, and that's at my grandparents' house as well, because he lived in Berwick or down in Newcastle. So we'd travel up and we'd meet at my grandparents' house as well. Um, so even at that, God rest their souls, there was a lot of pressure. Definitely on my sister as well. Not that I'll speak about my sister, but that's a pressure that we both I think definitely felt throughout our childhood, and I think kind of now that's why I don't handle pressure very well. I fold quite easily if I feel that there's a bit of pressure kind of put on me. I put up an instant resistance against it, which I'm working well with now, but it's still definitely there.
Yeah, of course. That's just
Um,
automatic though, because you know that's a part of your defense mechanism.
yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. It's totally automatic. And I think like yeah, even up through even after my dad died, there was still that obviously connection with my granddad, and it's not that I didn't love my granddad, but I was the only family member that he kind of had left that was close. So there was, and not that I don't want to sound empathetic in any way, but there was a lot of pressure to obviously see, visit, do help with shopping and that too, and that was a kind of carry on, you know, up until his passing, which I would be, I don't know, around about 29, I think I was at the time. And when I look back now, the funniest thing about it is obviously you said that your uncle chucked away your pills. I would probably say that my granddad would be the exact same as that. if through that time he ever knew how I was probably actually feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's with the older generation. You know,
Yeah,
they had to deal with things a different way, and when it and medication, I do think there's a place for medication, but I also think that it's handed out too quickly and easily because just from my own experience, I've been on basically, I think I've been on probably every antidepressant you could possibly get, and the depression was never the issue. It was never the issue. It was the coming down from the alcohol and the drugs, which was the issue. It was a chemical imbalance that the alcohol and drugs was creating in my brain. But
yeah,
the quick fix was here. There's citalopram, or there's sertraline, or there's naproxen, or
right.
whatever. No, naproxen. I can't remember the other one. But a long list of medication.
Mhm.
And that it was just, whereas back in the day they never had antidepressants. They had to just get on with it. So I think
Yeah,
with the older generation, they're like, nah, just they're kind of a bit harder, and they've had to deal with it
yeah, a
very
bit more
differently.
stern. Yeah.
Yeah. So when your dad died, how old were you when your dad died?
So I would have been 2013. That's 11 years ago. So I'd been 25 when my dad
25.
died. He was he was diagnosed with cancer January 2013, and then passed on his birthday in November 27th of that year. So it was a really,
Oh wow.
you know,
Quite.
fast, very fast. Like I say, I was at Thailand at the time when he did pass too, which was very surreal, if that's the word to use. We went to what was the half moon party at the time, and all left our phones in a security deposit box. And we were at party until around about 7 o'clock in the morning. Went back. I didn't actually check my phone at that point. Got up a couple hours later and got our phones out the box, and there was a text from my dad and a couple of missed calls. And the last text from my dad was, "This looks like the end," and that he loved me. And he didn't actually die then. He passed later. I believe he passed just a little bit later on from that. But yeah, it was quite tough. Being out there.
Yes,
The
it
normal
must have
feeling of
been.
wanting to come home.
What I was going to say, having that text message, it must be the end. That must have severely fucked. You know, if I would have received that, that must have been pretty tough to read that.
Yeah, it was very odd. It was just one of the weirdest. Yeah, just not a nice. It was gut wrenching at the time because I knew it was coming. I knew his cancer was really bad. I'd seen him the day before I flew out to Thailand, and I knew that he was going to be going into hospice care soon. Um, Obviously the hope was that I would make it back in time, but that obviously never happened. And yeah, it was hard to deal with. But I've mentioned before, I was out there with two guys. One of them I'd only met at the time that we'd all met up. I won't name them anyway, and they were just the best people in the world. Just so comforting, so supportive, and it was just it made it just so much easier. in some ways, I'm glad I was there when it was happened. And the last, I spoke to my granddad, obviously, just after it had happened, and he says, you, your dad said, he says, you stay out there. You don't come home. My dad was in the Navy. He traveled the world, and he wanted me to do the same. So there was ironically, there was no pressure to come home for a funeral.
Yeah.
That's a horrible way of saying that, I guess. But it was, it was a really quite rough time mentally.
So how did you deal with that coming home? And because obviously this is where you're 25, you're kind of already aware that for 3 years now you're kind of been struggling with depression, anxiety. What was your coping mechanism to when you came home?
I just got back into my normal life as fast as I could. Too fast. When I look back now, I think looking back, I got back from Thailand on the Friday. I spent a couple of days with my granddad, and then I was back to work on the Tuesday. And then it was just I don't think I dealt with it. I just again the excuse of going out would be the excuse of going out makes me sound like I didn't like going out. I used to love going out. I still love going out. I just don't drink. But like any excuse to use alcohol to take away any hurt of even talking about anything like that was perfect for me at the time. And just not a very healthy way of dealing with things. And I still struggle with it to this day. Thinking back and the feelings
Well,
back
I
then
think,
and the way I kind of handled it and shunned it out at times.
yeah.
There's a bit of regret. There's definitely a lot of regret and irresponsibility on my part.
But the way I look at things like that, because I know what you're like, I've had the same feelings. And, when I've forgiven myself for a lot of things, because see, when I
Mhm.
look back, see at the time, I was doing the best that I could with the tools that I had. And that's how I've managed to, let go of a lot of the shit that I done. Because I've done a lot of bad things and I've hurt a lot of people and I've
Mhm.
been irresponsible a lot of times. But back then, I didn't have the tools to deal with anything. Like you said, alcohol was my tool. Because when you grow up in a culture like we've grown up in, Scotland, all over the world we're known as drinkers. When I went to
Yep.
university in America, and everybody used to big it up. So I thought I was cool when I was smashing all these drinks, getting hammered all the time. I thought I was the man. But the reality was, I was just a scared little boy running away from what was inside, and I didn't know
Mhm.
how else to cope. So alcohol was my go-to, or drugs, whatever it was, to so I could escape my reality, because that's all it was. It was an escape, and so I didn't have to deal with any type of emotions. So when did you start drinking? When was it you started to drink?
Yeah, I would have started. Well, I started. Used to smoke a lot of cannabis when I was probably started smoking cannabis when I was around about 13 or 14. And I probably started drinking around about then as well. Like kind of first stages of early introductions to alcohol. Usual rebellious teens, beach parties, caravan parties. Some of the best nights of my life. Just reckless behavior as a teenager. But when I was drinking, definitely I would say from when I was around about 28 onwards.
Wow. So you
Um,
were a bit
is
older when you
when
got right into it.
Oh yeah. Like when I was whe- when I was probably just before my 30s. Um, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday drinking, but extensive drinking. And at that time, I was on medication for my anxiety, and it was working. Um, but what wasn't happening is then behaviors weren't getting replaced. I wasn't doing anything good and fulfilling my time. I was still doing the same thing because what I guess I recognize now at the time the anxiety feelings may have been coming away and the symptoms of anxiety were coming away, but I was left with depression and a
Hmm.
really empty feeling. And again, alcohol lent itself to taking that feeling away because it made me happy, and it made me want to gamble more because I gambled at the time, and it was a fun drug for me. Um, you know, people use all sorts of drugs responsibly or irresponsibly. And the same's for alcohol, but I was using it incredibly irresponsibly. Um, Looking back now, hair of the dog, literally, that would be my weekend is getting in Fridays. If I could find a reason not to go to the gym on the Friday, I would go pick up, 12 cans, and they'd be done by 8, 9 o'clock. And then maybe onto some gins, wake up on the Saturday feeling really sorry for myself. 11 o'clock in the morning comes, there's football coming on at 12. So, yeah, brilliant idea. Let's get in the spirit now and then just take that horrible feeling away. And that would be through to midnight on the Saturday. And on Sunday, you've now got that feeling times two. 9 o'clock in the morning. So, shower, freshen up, do what you can. Go down to the co-op and pick up another 12 cans and get straight back on it again. And then, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is just it's just filled with anxiety and depression.
Yeah, now, these are massive, common things that I've experienced, what you're sharing there. I actually used to love drinking it first thing in the morning, and because I could never deal with the fear, I used to call it, the waking up with that
100%.
fear, that horrendous feeling. So it was, that whatever was left in the fridge, and I would say to myself, I'll just have this. Say, for example, there was, a few shots of vodka left, and I would say, I'm just going to have this just to take the edge off. But that eventually went to, as soon as I drank that, then there was more and more and more, and it was just a constant cycle, like you were saying, and then I had to deal with Monday at work, or whatever it was. Now, was there any other self-destructive behaviours that you would get involved with? Was it just drinking, smoking weed, gambling?
I was a horrible gambling addict. I recently just done a little solo cast. I think it was last week on it. It's been something that I've been wanting to talk about obviously on the Borderline podcast for a little bit. And yeah, gambling for me massively took away depression when gambling was good. And that feeling of winning was so immense and so relieving and soothing, and especially combined with the alcohol, made me rather jolly, you could say. And it was, to me, a beautiful combination, and it was the worst combination. It's led to a lot of debt in my life. It's led to a lot of deceit in my life. I've had to own up to my mistakes. They are mistakes, and it's not been an easy ride because of gambling and because of alcohol. And that's what I try and warn people now, especially if you've got any sort of mental health condition. I was chasing that dopamine hit, that urge, that sensation so badly because I felt so tired and run down and just so substandard during the week. That anything to boost that feeling of self worth or self nourishment, I would go after it. And gambling was an easy fix for that. And like I touched on before, I've got a very addictive personality, and it's something that I cannot even go close to again in my life. I wouldn't even play a puggy now. It's just been so destructive.
I used to have a puggy in my room. My brother was pretty bad with the gambling, so we got my puggy for the room, but it didn't really soothe anything. So but what you're saying is basically that was coping mechanisms that you were using. You were using them to cope, and
Yeah.
because you didn't know anything else to do, but did you, what kind of professional help did you seek?
So yeah, not a lot. Obviously just kind of normal doctors. I done a lot of CBT therapy. Now, don't get me wrong, CBT therapy has a lot of benefits and it's very good, but I'd done that for years. So, and that's all that I could really get offered. So I was always kind of turned off seeking help, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. You know,
So
I
yeah, just kind of GP and medication. Interrupts
no,
there again.
it's just, you know, I totally get that, mate, because I was the same, and I kind of feel for the doctors as well a little bit, because you know, again, they're doing the best with what they can do, and a lot of them don't know. I've Over the years I've been to the doctors and I've been able to tell them more about addiction than they know, because
Yeah,
I've been to the rehab 3 times. I've been home detoxed. I've had, you know, umpteen different therapists and counselors, and you know, I've been through the ringer and back. So the dogs, you know, they are trying, and that's why I do feel bad for them sometimes. And you know, fortunate enough, I had my doctor was, you know, he's been amazing. He's still my doctor now. He got me into a good rehab, and he's took time to actually understand me rather than just
mhm,
giving me medication. You know, I've been in with him probably 10 years now, but he's known my whole history. So having that same doctor each time, building that relationship up with him, and being brutally honest with him, because I think that's a huge part of it. Until you're ready to be 100% honest, you know,
yeah.
with what's going on, your depression, your anxiety, your alcohol, you know, that kind of stuff, you're not going to move forward. You know, were you honest from the get go, or obviously you weren't because you said you were deceitful and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, but when was the turning point for you? You know, at what point did you know, say, you know what, I need to come clean here. I need to own up to everything that's going wrong
I
right
would
now.
say the easiest way, and at what point, I would say I was, so I'd been 30. So I tried to get clean of gambling once, and I was clean for around about a year and a half. But I was still drinking alcohol a lot in that time. But I would say when I just got sick and tired of being me, and needed fixing my life, if that makes sense. And I just gambled to the point of just a lot of debt, and I just couldn't lie anymore. And I was making myself sick every day because I was just so sick of being me. It just made me nervous. Being me made me nervous. I hated me during that point. And yeah, I just broke down one day, and I remember messaging my mum on WhatsApp like really early in the morning, just being like, I'm really sorry. I started gambling again. You know, da 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 da. I'm gonna get this time. It's done. I just wanted to be honest. This is why I'm being honest, because I'm just so sick of it, and I need help from it. And then obviously my wife's ass came downstairs that day, and just kind of broke down with her. And you know, you fear the absolute worst, but you forget how beautiful people are as well, and how forgiving people are, and that they just really, when my life did start changing around better, and I really started taking a little bit more care and control of myself, mentally as well. I started learning a little bit more about anxiety and depression, and how it affects you, and again, kind of, you know, your self therapy, your self help. You know, I guess you'd probably say around about 30, if that makes sense.
How old are you now?
I'm 35 now. I'm 35.
35, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I can totally relate to that. What you said a minute ago, I just hated being me, because that was me as well, mate. I remember I had a belt round my neck, you know, trying to commit suicide, and I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to
Mhm.
live the way I was living anymore. I just hated being me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was, even though it was, I was I was I don't even know if I was going to would have 100% went through with it, but my wife came through, and I broke down, and we ended up in the crisis ward up in the Borders General Hospital. But that, you just hating yourself, not wanting to be you.
Yeah.
You know, it's so emotionally draining. So, you know, having that, like, your wife's ass has obviously been instrumental in your journey, and same as Jenna, my wife, and you know, the people around us. But see,
Yeah.
before you kind of came clean, and you kind of put your cards on the table, you know, what was it like, you know, having to keep that lie inside, you know, having to constantly, you know, hold all that shit, inside you. You must have felt like you were going to explode.
Yeah, insurmountable pressure, I guess is the feeling. Just like filling a furnace over and over and over again. It was not comfortable living at that point. Going to bed at night, I was dreaming of gambling. I hated that. I hated that. So I was waking up in the morning hating how I'd slept. And so, from 7 o'clock in the morning, there's anxiety of being me all throughout that day because I'm just so sick of it. And like you said, that the lying and um I would I never thought of myself of ever having an eating disorder in any way. But I would go make myself sick in the toilet just as an excuse to get away from my wife so I could go gamble for 10 minutes. And
Wow.
it's just, yeah, it was yeah, it was horrible. I was so bad, so bad. And oddly, and I was never suicidal at that point because I was so addicted. Um, there's a selfishness that comes with addiction like that. I always kind of think, and there was a bit that liked it about me because I liked the rush and the chase, because I was so intensely addicted to that feeling, and it just took so much out of me that, like I say, if I hadn't have broken down, I think eventually it probably would have led to suicide. Due to my poor mental health. Anyway, I think I was running into really, hard troubles financially then. And if I hadn't sought help at that point, I don't think I would have ever looked for help again.
So what
So
changed then? What did you do after obviously you've broke down? What were the steps that you took to start getting your shit together?
yeah, so I basically, from the gambling side of things, I completely suspended myself. I went onto a thing called GamStop again, which self-excludes you from loads of accounts. I actually had a thing that I still have on my phone now, called GamCare, and basically that stops me from even going on any betting sites. It won't load them up on my phone; it freezes them straight away. So there's absolutely no way. This is the safety net. I mean, I don't want to now. That's the thing. I absolutely hated that about my life. I wish I could have changed that a bit about my life, but it's who I am now today, and it's made me the way that I am today. And yeah, my biggest bit of advice is don't gamble because you'll eventually be gambling with your life. Um,
Yeah,
you're
mate.
not going to
Well,
win. The,
that,
the the bookies always win.
my
And
uncle.
so getting clean off gambling was actually relatively easy in a way because I knew I had to make that adjustment in my life. However, it was made easier because I drank. And so Saturdays watching the football when I'd usually have bets on weren't that hard because I'd just get a little bit more drunk beforehand. Or I
Yeah,
would I would go out because I wasn't spending this money on gambling anymore. So let's go down to the pub and drink. They weren't even showing football. They might not have to have a phone signal. It's a perfect excuse to go drink instead. Um,
kind of transferring your addiction to something different.
yeah, so like I say, so kind of self journey kind of started there, but it wasn't that I was ever actually who I am now. When I was 32, if anything, alcohol just swooped in and picked up all the dirty work that gambling was leaving behind. And what was happening then was obviously COVID, and that was just the worst thing ever for me when I look back now. I was never so introverted. And this is nothing against, I'm not a conspiracy against COVID whatsoever. But it's made me so introverted. And it also allowed me to drink every single day because what else was there to do? And that was a very unhealthy habit that I got into. But it wasn't that I was drinking every day, but it was definitely, more than 4 out of 3 days of the week. And even if it was just 4 or 5 cans on a Tuesday night, it was still drinking. and it was still soothing my anxiety. And what was happening at that point in my life was I knew I was getting worse, a lot worse mentally, because I was not sleeping well. I was getting a lot more anxiety through the night. I'd started using cannabis again to take away that feeling, but I was still drinking. And so you drink up to 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, give it an hour, go to bed, wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning because my heart feels like it's about to be out of its chest. And you go for a little pipe, and that soothes it, and you go back to bed. And that's how I deal with my anxiety, and that's fine because it allows me to go to work the next day and get on with my life. And so when I talk about deceit, it's almost like self-deceit that, and to a lot of people, I think at that point I was telling a lot of people that I was making really good steps and I was getting better mentally, and I was kind of championing myself to take on new things and really move forward in life, and I absolutely wasn't. I was just burying my head in the sand more than ever, and it took up until last year, which was just the worst year of my life, to really connect with myself and really learn a lot about myself. Is the best way that I can ever describe it, and I'm very thankful in some ways that some of the worst year of my life is shaped me in the way, because it's kind of got that that part of my life that I hated away from me now.
So what was it that was so bad about the last year? What was the kind of situation there? Was it just an ongoing thing
Yeah.
or a specific incident?
So so the tail end of last year, um, I was going for a medication change, and I'd been on citalopram for a long, long, long time, and it was just before Christmas of last year, 2022, and I wasn't dealing well with my depression. There was things at work going on that I would deal with fine. I'm usually a very quite laid back person, and I was getting really angry, upset, anxious over superficial things at work. So I ended up with me, getting signed off for a little bit before Christmas. I'd never been signed off before in my life, so that was really weird. I don't know why, it just felt weird. And I'd ended up going on sertraline, which was the worst decision ever. There was a bit of a muck up on my dosages. So my experience of sertraline is not good. I ended up going back onto citalopram. So, early last year into January, I was kind of all over the place mentally anyway. And I was drinking a hell of a lot, and I was smoking a hell of a lot of cannabis to deal with that. And then it'll be about a year ago, now to this weekend actually, that I experienced what I call like a first kind of mini breakdown in a way. And basically what that was I was out for a family meal, and I was absolutely fine. We're drinking, and what was actually happening there was actually getting that sick of alcohol that I was kind of refusing it in some way. Like my body was refusing it. My mind wanted it, but when I was drinking it, it just didn't taste the same. I just, it would make me feel quite ill at times. So we'd went out for a meal, and my social anxiety in that had been okay, but it had been a lot worse. And obviously, say the medication changed, so it's kind of heightened anyway. And I ended up vomiting a lot, which is quite a common symptom I have when I get really bad anxiety. The stomach's the second organ with the most nerve endings in it. So, if your brain's feeling it, your stomach's going to be feeling it too. And I was sick a lot, and got home. I was drowning in sweat, really bad. Had to, get a taxi home. Continually sick. That night was that Saturday night was horrible. I spent it on the couch, really, really unwell. Hating life really intensely, confused, didn't know what was actually going on with me. I kind of was lying to myself and to my wife, and I think Sass was obviously kind of lying to me and herself too, because we were like, it's food poisoning, it's just food poisoning. And on the Sunday afternoon, I was back drinking because I kind of felt a little bit better. And then I went to work on the Monday, and then on the Monday I went out. I remember it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I went outside for a vape. And this feeling that I've only felt again later in the year came over me. and it was just like e every nerve in my body was on fire. It's the only way that I can describe it. Right up to my neck. It felt like I couldn't breathe up from my mouth, and I was just so panicked. And I legged it home, straight in my car, home. I knew what it was. I knew it was an anxiety attack, but I'd never experienced this feeling of. I mean, I really thought I was, about to have a heart attack almost. And but let's say I knew it was anxiety. And yeah, I just kept on being sick, making myself sick. That the pain in my stomach was so intense from the anxiety and the depression or whatever was going on. The only way it felt that I could relieve that was by vomiting, and like it's not a flex, but there's times that I would have made myself sick well over 100 times a day just to try and get rid of that feeling. So the damage that does on your system isn't good when you take bile and whatnot into consideration. And yeah, so that went on for a week, and then I got better. Then I just went back to my normal life, and that was back to drinking. And then what had happened late April that later on in the year was almost exactly the same, just 10 times worse. And I was actually across dog sitting at my mum's for the weekend, and Sass was there. And I was having a couple of beers and whatnot. And then I remember I knew I was going to be sick. I knew this feeling was coming over me again. And it was horrible, horribly intense. The only thing that came over my head when when I started vomiting, projectile vomiting, when this anxiety takes over, was get in the bath. Was just get in the bath. I don't know why. It was just run a bath and sit in the bath. And that's what I done. I was in my mum's house. She's got a beautiful big bath. So jumped in it, and I kind of got a little bit of relief. Kind of calmed myself down, chilled myself out, went back upstairs, spoke to Sass, and then I think for about 10 minutes, everything was fine. And then it was, again, that feeling of just pure heat, anxiety, dread, just horrible, asphyxiating feeling. And I had to go home. I had to come back to my house. And obviously Sass had to stay there because we're dog sitting. And, I didn't sleep a minute that night. I was in the bath pretty much all of it. It was, and that's been, the only way that I could soothe this feeling was by sitting in a bath. And basically what happened from that moment on, from the next 3.5 weeks, is I probably spent around about 17 hours a day in a bath, in pure self-isolation, because I was just so scared of life at that point. Every day was the same. I would wake up, the feeling of anxiety and dread and pain was there from the minute that I opened my eyes. You'd get up straight into the bath, calm down out the bath, maybe try and get some juice into you, be sick over and over again, back in the bath, and try and get to sleep at night. You maybe get an hour, and just that on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was tough, and I just got so sick of that feeling. And during that, I don't really remember how, but I started getting a little bit better. These feelings stopped being so intense, and normality resumes, so to speak, in my body. And sorry. And then I actually got back to work for 2 or 3 days, and then it happened again. But this time, I wasn't prepared. I'd the time that I'd isolated myself away, I was really struggling with agoraphobia and social anxiety. It was really weird. I didn't want to speak to anybody, but I didn't want to be left alone. I had a really hard time with being left alone at that time, even though I was alone in a different room. And yeah, I just did not trust myself. A lot of suicidal thoughts started creeping in, and that's the first time that I've really intensely thought of suicide. I think that's the word too. or the way to describe it, that I've I've had what I've thought was suicidal thoughts in the past, and that's, I could do this, I could do it this way, I could do it that way, but this was different, and this was without fear. There was a bit of conviction in my thoughts of this is what I'm going to do,
Suicide
because
ideation.
yeah. So I was I was very plotting, because I was not living like this anymore. If I'd made my decision, during the time, that if I hadn't gotten better, I was going to kill myself, because I was not living like that. And I kind of got better, and then these feelings came back, and I was just I was a mess. I was not good. Basically, my birthday was on the Saturday, the 27th of May, and I kind of settled down a little bit on the Friday night. I was okay. I was doing a little bit better, and I was kind of, it's my birthday weekend, so that was going to be a kind of good distraction from everything. And I, I, I can't explain what happened. I woke up at 2 in the morning, incredibly emotional. Um, it felt incredibly guilt, like everything that I'd done then was making sense to me in a horrible way. And I just broke down and started crying until 2 in the morning, right through until kind of middle afternoon when I went for a little nap. I was crying nonstop. Not like nothing would stop me. I was hysteric. I knew what was coming in my mind. Like, I knew what was coming. I knew what I was going to do, and that was making me hysterical. And I'd went for a nap, and I'd woken back up, and for a short while I felt fine and normal. And I remember I was walking about the house, and I thought, this is fine. And then that feeling came back into my stomach, and that's when I was like, nah, no. So I'd jumped in my car and just took off. I knew what I was going to do, and that was obviously jump over the cliffs. And so I'd made my way out there, and the weirdest feeling about it all was that I wasn't scared. I'd went through the hysterics. I was done with the emotion. I was emotionally gone. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I couldn't even feel guilty about what I was leaving behind. It was horrible. And and mentally, I say I was ready. I wasn't ready because I didn't commit suicide. And basically what had happened was, after a little bit of deliberation in the car and acceptance, was I just went for a little dunder, and I'd picked my spot in my head, in the bath many weeks before, and there was somebody up there walking their dog, and the sun was behind them, and it was just a really odd moment that they just looked really happy. And I don't know what happened in that second. I'm glad whatever happened in that second happened, but it I just felt, no. It took a lot of time. I was in the car again. The hysterics kid. That's when the emotion kicked back in. I was a wreck again, and smoked many a cigarette, and then made my way back home. So the entire ordeal was probably about an hour or so, and it was by far the worst hour of my life. But from there, everything's been better.
Well,
I've really
let me
had to
ask
go
you
to the
this.
very yeah, of course.
See, going through that experience, like like I'm just listening to it there, mate, and like I was captivated. I'm just picturing the scene, and try to put myself in your shoes, and it's fucking horrific. See that time of crying and going through all of that. When at the end of it, did you feel that, like, as in lighter? Did you feel like you've left a shitload behind you, you just dropped it.
Yeah.
And let me put context to it. The reason I'm saying this
Yeah.
is because, see, in 2019 or 20, mate, I went through something similar, and I was crying for, it must have been over an hour, and
Mhm.
it was like I couldn't explain the tears. And see, when it stopped, I felt like I was somebody different. Like, I felt like, even though I was myself, and I was trying to explain it to people without sounding fucking crazy, it was like it was like something shifted in me where I was
Yeah.
different. Yeah, something had happened, and I felt different, and I felt, you know, and I've spoke to people about it, and they say it was a spiritual experience. And that's why I'm asking you, without trying to sound crazy, like, did you
Oh
feel
no, you're not
like
crazy.
you had shifted?
No, it's not a crazy question. Um, what I'd learned about myself in the bath, was that I'm actually very spiritual, and I believe in a lot of a lot of positive energies. And I was always interested with the idea of meditation and whatnot. So that's something that I really use, and I still use actively to this day as a form to still deal with, with unwanted symptoms now and then. But 100%, on both sides of that experience, as you say, when the tears subsided pre-suicide, I felt like a completely person that I've never felt like before. It's not somebody that I like. There was no emotion there. And the other side of it was, yeah, when I was in the car, I was just happy. It just felt like the right decision because because I was making a good conscious decision for a change. It felt like, which is as stupid as it sounds. Of course, it's a good consciousness. Of course, it's a good decision. But that felt really good for me, and that feeling is what progressed into what my life is now. And that's is a lot. I'm learning a lot about the spirituality side of what I believe in good energy and 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 absorbing energy and whatnot. But yeah, my feelings now are so different from that moment that yeah, I totally agree that why people say they had a feeling of enlightenment when something like that happened, something so traumatic happens. Um, you know, I, it's it's not like I'm not scared of them feelings anymore. It's almost like a weird little respect that I have for them now. And that's not to sound cliche. It's just that I know them feelings now are show me something. Just to show me that I can't go back into certain aspects of my life, and the certain aspects that I never want to go back to, because there's such bad energy around there, and there's such bad personality involved in that. I don't want that to be who I am and to define who I am. So 100% from that moment on, and the context of my story, going back to your very first questions, or when I started getting better, was from that moment on. Um, Things just I remember. I say the song all the time. "Struggle" by the Lathams, to the Lathams, however you pronounce it. And that was a song that I'd listened to loads of times, over and over and over again in the bath, thinking of my suicide. Um, but ever since then, I remember singing at home, because it was life was different from that moment on. But it's hard. It's very hard to explain, to put into words. Obviously, people like yourself who can respect the feeling and the emotion that I probably felt going through that. And trying to put that into a kind of context to relay it is quite tough, but very life changing, towards the feelings that I felt, and certainly to how I feel to this day. Yeah.
Yeah, because people say it's like a psychic shift, and that's the only way I can describe it. Because from that moment, mate, I never touched a drop of alcohol again. I did smoke weed again, but only briefly, like for one day. before I had like a fair amount of weed and I
Yeah.
threw it in the harbour. But I literally, like, I believe it was like something left me and something came in, and I never believed in spirituality before this. My wife will tell you. I ridiculed like psychics and mediums, and there's still a lot of charlatans out there, but I didn't believe in any of that stuff, mate. None of it.
Oh,
None of it. And I had that
100%.
I had that experience, right? And everything changed. Like, I became, so that I was obsessed with it. Meditation, you know, I just got so deep into it. And I believe it saved my life because I put meditation down as probably the most important thing that saved my life. Meditation,
Yeah.
and obviously my family, my support system, the people who have been there
Mhm.
through everything with me. If it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have survived because they
No.
believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Like you, obviously, Sash, she's,
Mhm.
been through hell and back, but they see something in us that we don't see in ourselves, and that's why they believe in us. And I believe
Yeah.
also that we are all here for a purpose. We are all here, and without going into my whole experience, I ended up, you know, uh, getting guidance from spirit guides and archangels and stuff. That's a whole different podcast, but they basically told me, confirmed that, and that's why, for what you've experienced, and what you've went through, you know there's solace in it. You're now helping others. You're now helping other people from all over the world who are going through the similar struggles. So everything that you went through might have been
Yeah.
difficult, but it wasn't a waste of time. It all had there was
No. No.
something deeper behind it all. And and that's just proof today. Like, you've got the Borderline podcast, you've got your Andrew's Anxiety Adventures, and you're reaching people all over the world. So from that moment, mate, what would you say has been the biggest contributors to, living a quote unquote normal existence?
Yeah. So obviously, family has been massively supportive to help that, as it always is. My mom is just ridiculously strong little fighter, who backs me in every corner, and obviously Sass, my wife, has been incredible, and so is her family. Um, but you touched massively there. To learn more about me, I find things. I don't get worked up now because I know I can go meditate later on in the day, and I can understand that anger that I might feel, and I can, um, I can release a lot of that negative energy at that point. So just to know that I've got that there now, having gone through all that, is as you say, meditation's been the absolute lifesaver. And to keep me going now is the things that you've just mentioned, is obviously the podcast and the anxiety page and raising awareness that is, guys, it's it sucks, but it's normal to be like this sometimes, and being honest about how you feel is just for me is the only way that you'll ever really start to overcome these obstacles in your life, is with true honesty. And that's something that I live by now, is that you have to be so unflinchingly honest with yourself to really make any progress. And that's something that I've really learned from myself since that day, and been my kind of motivator going forward.
I agree with you, mate. See, the honesty part of it, you know, it's like I was so scared of the stigma and the judgment. And,
Mhm.
it was actually somebody said to me that I was being selfish because my story, my journey could be the springboard for somebody else's. By being open and honest and vulnerable and openly discussing it, that could give somebody else the courage to then discuss what's deep inside them that they're struggling with. And it's how do you balance that
Yeah.
openness and keeping the personal privacy? It's you know, I'm actually like you, Andrew. I'm an open book, mate. I've got nothing to hide. I've got
Mhm.
all my skeletons out my closet, because they things there would be the reason why I would end up drinking again, trying to lies. What's it people say? It's the lies that keep you sick. I think something along those lines. So how do you handle stress or pressure differently now? Is it meditation, the gym,
Yeah,
open
I mean,
conversations?
yeah, all of that. I guess now, um, I'm learning how to be so open. It's sometimes difficult at times because you can overstep it at times too. Um, so even learning that is brilliant. Learning about myself is a brilliant way to deal with myself, uh, and to progress with myself. The positive escape that I've the mainstay of the last 10 years in my life. That it's something that I got a very addictive personality, and I'm very competitive. As quiet as I'm super competitive, and I just the gym for me is just such a it's another type of meditation for me in a way. It's a release. It's a release of energy, negative energy. It's a place where I can go and listen to my favorite songs. That will give me that little dopamine rush that I go on about so much, and it's a place that because of that generally makes me feel good, and anything that you respect yourself when you've suffered from depression, anything that makes you feel good is worth doing over and over and over again. And the gym's been the absolute mainstay of that. And reading, recently I've really gotten into reading, learning psychology, um, as well, and learning about these diseases and more about them, and trying to educate a little bit about them, is my route of therapy as well. Kind of, I'm still on this journey. I still don't know everything there is about me. I'm only scratching the surface just now, but what I'm scratching away is that I'm quite liking. Um, and like I said the other day, I think, without sounding in any way kind of arrogant, is that mentally I'll probably never be okay. Totally 100% back to whoever it was. But I'm absolutely fine with that because I know that my heart will always be in the right place, and that's something now that feels good. And I don't need alcohol, and I don't need gambling to give me that feeling, because that's the feeling that they gave me, and that's been replaced by what I do now, and what I do now um helps, and I know it helps, and it's taken a while to understand what helps people. Like I say, it's still an ongoing journey, but I'm really enjoying the journey so far. It's a totally different lifestyle. Like I say, I, I've never said that I'll never not drink again. But I said that before Christmas, and I said that I'd probably have a bottle of red wine on Christmas Day, and I had a glass of non-alcoholic red wine on Christmas Day, and I didn't even like that. So
Yeah.
it's been a while since I've even touched drink. Whether I will ever go back to alcohol, I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. I don't think I was ever physically addicted to alcohol, but definitely mentally soothing I was, and I don't want to vulnerably ever put myself in a place like I was last year on my birthday. And for me, drinking alcohol could lower my inhibitions enough. Could it, trigger an anxiety attack? Could it? And that is not somewhere I'm ready to risk going back to. The trauma of that entire event is something that I'll feel for the rest of my life, and it's what I want to avoid. And again, by doing this, is of course therapy and helping people, trying to help people reduce the stigmas around mental health and suicidal thoughts in males and females. Is really it really helps me.
Definitely, mate. Like I've committed to never drinking again. I've said it. I'll never drink again because I will never
Yeah,
leave uh that open to discussion, because I know that even one drink might not take me back to where I was, but it will open the floodgates for the possibility to take me back to where I was. And I'm never opening that floodgate.
yeah,
So I've committed, like I've said it time and time again, and people say, "Oh, you can never say never." And I'm saying, "You want to bet?" I'm saying never, never again will I touch it, because I will not risk what I have today for anything,
Yeah.
and alcohol cannot give me anything that I want, nothing, because I have done the work. I have overcame the shit that held me back for so many years. And like what you're saying there, I have found my purpose in life. And that's
Mhm.
something that's bigger than me. And that's something I lacked my whole life, was purpose. And because I lacked it, I had nothing that I was working towards. And I felt, I just didn't have something to strive for, because I
Yeah.
didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel good enough. But now I believe I'm living my purpose right now, but I'm only at the beginning. Like you, this is a journey that I've just started, but the possibility for growth is endless,
Yeah.
and that's what I think for people who, who don't have purpose in life, then the possibility of addiction, depression, anxiety, that's all heightened and more, because you don't have that something to strive for, something that's bigger than you, something that inspires you, that keeps you going on those days when you feel like just fucking quitting, or you feel like doing
Mhm.
something you don't want to do. You've got that bigger thing, like, fuck, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And talking about that, what is your vision, mate? What is your biggest dreams, that you're shooting for?
Oh. You know something? Um, I don't even know. If to answer that entirely honestly, I don't. I don't really know because I, for me, for me, I don't want a lot back ever for what I do. I just want to know it helps. And to not be ridiculed either. By what I do because people are people, and and maybe a little bit of respect with what I do is essentially all I do. The big goal, the big goal would obviously to be to have the podcast on a professional level. But whether we'll ever get to that stage or not, I've no idea. But like I say, I'm really enjoying the journey just now, and I'm enjoying this self development. And I touched on earlier the idea of self nourishment and self satisfaction, and doing this gives me that. So I just want it to keep doing that for me. Is that it's something I found that I absolutely love doing, and I've not loved a lot of things in my life that have been good for me, and yeah, it's good to have one finally that's helping me, and it's also connected to helping a lot of other people along the way, uh, and meeting individuals like yourself. It's like you say, everything happens for a reason, and we end up down a path that not all of us chose initially, but I'm glad. Like I'm glad all this has happened. In a way, as stupid as that may sound, I'm glad because I am such a different person to who I was 2 years ago, to who I was a year ago. I think differently. Um, I understand um, a, a lot of other people's issues more. I'm learning to before reacting, always put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Analyze how that person might have might have felt before they acted, and with that, that's helping me understand a lot about myself. Um, so
Yes.
overall success is just continued growth.
No, mate, that's great, because I was asked about 2 years ago, and this was actually by the spirit guides, right? And they asked me if I was to, what was it, a, b- a a book, my life book. They were asking if I was to write, if I was to, my book of life or something like that, and it was, what would I write? And I didn't have an answer because I didn't know, but it was
Mhm.
because I didn't believe in the ability that I had. And now it's like, you know what? I'm the only person who has the ability to dream my dream. It's only
Yeah,
me. Nobody can dream my dream for me, or nobody can dictate. So I've committed to the fact is that my dream has already happened. I'm guaranteed to it's a reality. But the part that I have to play is I have to take the daily action to get there. The minute I stop taking action towards what it is that I dream of is the moment that I give up on my dream. So
Mhm.
it's just the way I look at it. It's like, you know what? My dream is already created. It's just not right here this second. It's just down the line.
Yeah,
As long
yeah,
as I keep moving
yeah,
forward
100%.
every single day, then that will become a reality. So, if you get any words for people out there who are struggling, who are kind of going through that tough time, like a message or a lesson that you wanted to convey to others, in the midst of depression, anxiety, addiction, who are just kind of feeling, like you were feeling.
Yeah. So, if there was a message, if there was a message that I could have given myself many years ago, is step one is be incredibly honest with yourself about how you're feeling. If you've got depression, you've got depression, and if you've got anxiety, you've got anxiety. And I put a post up today, and um, I think it might make a little bit of sense for what I'm saying. And a lot of the times we'll look at ourselves as being a bit unlucky, and we'll use a phrase that it's kind of tough that the hands that we've been dealt. But any kind of good poker player will know, as an ex-gambling addict, that the worst two hands in poker, you can still win, and it's overcoming them obstacles along the way that will make you succeed. So being incredibly honest is the way to do that. Is the fact that I think if you want to move forward, you have to be honest, and to be honest is you probably have to talk. And as cliche as that sound and that is driven into us, it is so true. Because talking about it is going to release a hell of a lot of serotonin in your body. It's going to make you feel good. This isn't hoo-ha. This is science. It makes you feel nice. That positive energy that you'll feel to back that up, that spiritual feel of being connected from actually being honest with yourself and letting that go, will kickstart a new life for you. So don't ever allow yourself to get to the stages of that, suicide ideation. Is obviously seek help, and do it with somebody that that is actually going to listen, and that you can converse these issues with somebody, because that's vitally important too, because you can't go and talk to the wrong person. You want to talk to somebody that gives you a response and understands you and understands your honesty as well. And finally, is it always gets better. And I never ever thought that. I tell you, like, bottom line, I've spent enough time submerged naked in a bath with the worst skin after it. Oh yeah, it gets better. It can't get any worse than that. Trust us. And yeah, so look at the big picture, analyze and be honest. And if you imagine a life that's scary because there's something in it that is bad for you and you're not willing to leave that behind, that's your message, that you need to start changing things in your life. Because that, you can't get a clearer message if you have a emotion and energy in your body that's saying change, and there's this little bit in your brain that's telling you, no, 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 leave that bit there, touch, you deserve that bit there, shut it off. It's bad and it's toxic. And like I say, honesty is how you improve, and you have to make life changes and sacrifices. But the sacrifices aren't sacrifices because the sacrifices are so worth it. There's nothing negative to say about trying to change your life. That's a very long message.
Yeah, it's a good message, though.
But
It's
yeah,
a good
be
message, bro.
honest, talk, and listen. Yeah,
Because I think that's where most people go wrong. They're not honest and they're too scared to talk, and that's the first
yeah,
step. Be honest with yourself, and then be honest with someone else. So listen, I've actually
yeah.
been blown away with what you were speaking about today, mate. I really was. When you were telling me that story, it was, I know the listeners will be captivated just like I was. But, obviously you've got your own podcast, which is Borderline. I'll put the links down here in the description for anybody who wants to go and
Oh, yeah.
listen to, you know, more of the episodes that you got, want to hear more about your story. And because you talk about a lot of different things, and it's not just about your story, it's educational, informative. And also you've got your, I'll put your Instagram page, which is Andrew's Anxiety Adventures, you know. And you know, listen,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for coming on today, mate. I thank you for your honesty, you know, being
No
100%
problem.
real, raw, authentic. You know, it takes a lot of courage to come and do this and speak openly to the masses. So I truly thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And for
Yeah.
anybody that's struggling out
Thank you.
there, you know, as Andrew says, you know, talk to someone. You don't have to do this alone. Don't suffer in silence.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime. Like I say, it's been a pleasure. It's been very odd being a guest. It's been fun and exciting, and I've enjoyed our chat. I'm glad that we've got it done, and I'm glad it'll be hopefully make for a good episode.
I just want to close with a big massive thank you. See, Project Reinvented has never been about me, it's always been about you, the listener who's looking to improve their life. So with that, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for not only listening, but your continued support. Project Reinvented wouldn't exist without your presence, so thank you. My goal is to make this as personal to you as possible, so your feedback is invaluable to me, always welcomed and always appreciated. So as we go on this journey together, remember, the art of reinvention doesn't always demand big, massive leaps. See, big change starts with small steps. So think about this. What's one small action you can take today that will reignite your journey of life reinvention? Make that decision to take that step. See, life's a canvas, reinvention's the art, and you're the artist. So start creating. See you next week.